and gentlemen, good evening. I am Commander Retired Dr. Real Pinko, and it is my pleasure and honor to welcome you tonight to the webinar organized by the International Institute for Migration and Security Research, the IIMSR. The IIMSR is an institute, it's a non-partisan institute. It's a think tank and a scientific organization which scope is to generate fact-based analysis and widen perspective on the current issues. When we started our webinar initiative, we're concentrated on causes and effects of the corona outbreak, exploring different dimensions of the challenges and the risks created by the situation around it. Of course, because the nature of the IIMSR, because of the nature of immigration and security research, we concentrated on these issues of security, immigration, the cause for that. And today's topic, which is pretty unique, I would like to say, we will provoke the coronavirus spread, and we believe that is universally important for everyone, each one of you, especially in the age when uncertainty is the new normal. So in the next half an hour or so, 40 minutes, we will speak about the way of building the mindset of the mental warrior, you, described by the personal resilience, mental toughness, and more importantly, how to grow in time of crisis. Because we believe that when time is crisis is over there, the one thing that you need really in order to go through those challenges that we all experience is your mental health, is your self-resilience. And we believe that this will be one of the power that humankind has in its position. So our guide tonight to this topic will be our colleague at the IIMSR, Mrs. Dorit Shabi. Mrs. Shabi is well-experienced manager, consultant, coacher, instructor, and lecturer, and lots of more things. She gets her education in the field of clinical psychology from the USA and specializes in effective customer care dealing with a wide range of personality types and finding proactive solutions. Her professional experience includes consulting, guidance, staff training for organization in the fields of empowerment, leadership, risk management, personal consulting, and design strategies and managing the ongoing process, diagnosis and mapping of the needs. So just before I will handle the floor to Mrs. Shabi, I would like to point some technical details. The presentation will last, as I said before, about 40 minutes. And for your comfort, for all of you, your microphone during the presentation will be muted. The webinar will be recorded, so if you have any concerns, we can switch off the camera and just relax and enjoy the time and enjoy Mrs. Shabi presentation. At the end of the presentation, we will have a Q&A session. So if you want to leave your mark, your questions in the chat, I will just collect all your remarks and questions. And after the presentation, Mrs. Shabi will answer the questions that you have. So just before giving the floor to Mrs. Shabi, I would like to thank you in advance for your interest and presence tonight, and I would like to acknowledge the attendance, of our president of the IIMSR, Colonel Amir Goren, and the vice president, Mr. Avner Saar. My friends, thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for your time. Mrs. Shabi, the virtual floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Today, I want to talk to you about improving resiliency during times of crisis. First, I want to tell you a personal story. It's not related to Corona, but it's related to a crisis. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, there was a period of time in my village. I live in North Samarian. We had cases of burglaries around our village. And one night, 2:30 in the morning, my dog is barking. And I open my eyes and I see a person walking towards my side door. My husband wasn't home at the time. So I did what every mom would have done in a case of mortified fear. I pulled a gun and I pointed at him. Now, mind you, I don't carry guns or anything like that, but I pulled a gun at him. He tried to walk in. He saw me, and luckily he fled. Why am I telling you that? I'm telling you that because that period of time was probably the only time I was mortified of fear. I was so afraid for my children, for me. My husband wasn't home. And I was lucky to know that in this difficult time, I actually reacted in a way that my fear gave me strength rather than paralyzed me. So today, I want to talk to you about fear, okay? So before that, I want to start with some devastating, wait a second. Okay, I want to talk about, as you see, some devastating data about our crisis. The coronavirus has spread across the world and has created major world crisis. As you see, this is the data as of yesterday, and it's going up. We have verified cases of nearly 19 million, over 700,000 people died. 213 countries affected. We have cumulative world fatal rate of 4.4%, and it's going up by the minute. It affected us financially, it affected us politically, it affected us socially, and of course, it affected us mentally. I want to take a look at the dark side of the corona for a few short minutes. As you already see on the screen, something you probably all familiar with, we have a drop in the stock markets. We have increased unemployment rates by the minute. Today in Israel, we have over 1 million unemployed individuals, including myself. You have mistrust that causes mistrust in the government. You have lots of violence, riots, protestry, fake news, shortage in supplies. We know we do not have vaccine yet, and we try everything, which is good. But where does it leave us? It leaves us, the people, in desperation, despair. We're in global panic. In fact, this crisis is considered to be the steepest economic recession since the Depression in 1929, which undermines the political stability in many, many countries. Now, all countries have used the global prevention steps of prevention, protection, isolation, quarantine, but with that, we, the citizen, we must deal with the consequences of the virus every single day by ourselves. The coronavirus, the crown, rules. It dictates our survival. It dictates our social and economic status. But can it dictate us as people? Can it dictate the way we choose to manage this crisis? From a personal experience, I do not think so. So how do we manage this? There is a song in Hebrew by a singer called Amir Dadon. It's called To Choose Right. I chose this song for this lecture because I think it is extremely relevant. It goes like this, as you can read. In the end, everything connects to me, a matter of angles. A quick look at myself and enough. What's inside, it's already inside. This called habit. When I learn to make the right choice, to believe, to see what is good, without looking back again, to choose right. People, ladies and gentlemen, we have a choice. Maybe we do not see it. Maybe we don't like the choices that we have in front of us according to this crisis, but we do have choices. Now, aside of natural disasters, we human create crises. Therefore, we cannot undermine our abilities to manage them. Now, the coronavirus has created a crisis that we are all required to manage ourselves and our lives in one way or another. Now, today, I want to give you some tips to help you manage your own personal crisis with a healthy and strong resilience. And for that, ladies and gentlemen, I would ask that each and every one of you focus on yourself only throughout this lecture. I want you all to listen from the inside out. I want you to see what you have within yourselves to overcome the crisis that's ahead of you. So how can we enhance the mental resilience during the corona crisis and any crisis, okay? First, we have to know our fear. Where does our fear come from? What drives our fear? How do we react to fear? Okay, we all are afraid. We know that. But what we don't know, or maybe some of us do, that we're afraid of different things. We have to focus on the here and now. Now, the past is already a past. We cannot go back and change it. We do not know what's going to happen in the future. All we have left is the here and now. What are we going to do today to go through the day? With all the restrictions we have, we do not know if tomorrow we're going to go in quarantine or not, if we can continue to work or not. All we have is the here and now. I'm going to focus on each and every point separately. I'm just going to list it now. Of course, knowledge is power. We all know that. So the best thing to do is we study the crisis as it relates to me, and I will assess it to my best advantage. Okay? And last but certainly not least, we have to keep our moral high. High moral keep us motivated, keep us energized. Now, we all experience some level of existential anxiety. We are afraid of getting affected and die. We're afraid of losing our source of income. We are afraid of losing our families. We're afraid of watching our loved ones struggling. But most of all, we are afraid of the unknown. This puts us in a survival mode. So how do we survive this? First, we're going to understand the meaning of fear. Where does it come from? Within us, of course. And how do we, each and every one of us personally, react to fear? Mind you, when I had a burglar, I was mortified, but I felt that I needed to get up and do something for my kids. Some people might have done something differently, okay? Under the circumstances, it is completely natural and normal for us to be afraid. Therefore, it is very important for us to become aware of our reaction. So how do we actually become aware? This is Freud, for those who know him. Now, he was a psychoanalyst, and he was the first to talk about the personality design theory. He was the first to break our personality to say we have the id ego and the superego. Now, he took the ego and placed it on the front stage as a very significant factor coping with the feeling of fear of anxiety. Now, according to him, the ego is a mechanism that was designed to ensure that we meet our external requirements. In fact, what he's saying is that our ego is us. It's the sense of our sense of self-worth. It's who we are. So Freud says, exactly at the point when we meet the fear, the ego encounters the fear, right? We experience conflict, external conflict and internal conflict. Oh my God, I'm afraid. What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? Am I going to run? Am I going to do this or that? These are all conflicts that could either paralyze us or straighten us. Now, this ego drives the mechanisms of defense that we acquired in childhood in order to develop our adaptation skills and our ability to interact with that fear. His successors, the ego psychologists, they actually took only the ego. They were interested in examining the ego only. And they looked at the ego as a motivator. They say that our ego motivates us to act, motivates us to learn, motivates us to develop. And the ego's mechanism of defense, they are the most important and significant parts in helping us adapt to any kind of situation, whether it's fear, frustration, anger, any kind of external situation that brings those negative feelings. And he says, they say actually, and following Freud, make no mistakes. We all have egos, okay? We either have a strong ego or we have a weak ego. Therefore, I don't personally agree when people say, get rid of your ego to have a better relationship, to get to be better. We have ego, whether we like it or not. It's either how we use our mechanism of defense. Okay, soon we're going to talk about those as well. Another successor, which was Melanie Klein, which was also psychoanalyst, she actually studied the anger and the anxiety, and she looked at the ego. She took Freud's ego on the same basis, and she says that the capability of the ego to bear anxiety is only when it's able to interact and face reality. In other words, what she's saying is that a strong ego is capable of seeing a situation, it recognizes a crisis, examine the crisis, study it, and realizes if we're in a crisis, we cannot change the circumstances of it, then we have to start building adaptation skills in order to adapt ourselves to the new situation. Sounds familiar? This is exactly what we're doing right now with the corona crisis, the coronavirus crisis. We are in a situation that we need to change our life around, whether we have to change our jobs, whether if we have to start lecturing on Zoom or do other things, find a new career or whatever. Now, when we are afraid, we can become angry, we can become frustrated, we can become cruel, or parallel to that, we can become more, the opposite, we can become more optimistic, empathetic, we can become more understanding and positive. Our adaptation skills depend on our need to survive the situation. And our need to survive the situation drives the mechanism of defense that we have acquired or we are now acquiring throughout life and understanding them in order to operate them. So now we have high and low defenses, okay? The high defenses are the strong defenses, those that are helping us adapt into a better situation. We can sublime, the sublimation, we can transform an unaccepted social event or an anxiety into accepted social energy, which means, in other words, if I give an example, when I'm angry, when I'm furious, forget about angry, when I'm furious, I choose to either take the car keys and drive, or I choose to run. That's taking my anger and channel it in a positive energy. Intellectualization. This is actually the highest and one of the best high defense mechanism, that we are able to separate our feelings from our thoughts. Okay, we have a crisis right now. I lost my job. Okay, I'm running low on money and running low on food. Now, I can choose to panic. I can choose to scream, and I can choose to run and rob a bank. Or I can choose to calm down, to keep myself calm and collective, try to figure it out what other things I can do, no matter what. It doesn't matter if I have a PhD or a master's. If right now I can wash somebody's home and make some money, then I will do that. I would rather do that than rob a store, for example. Rationalization. We are giving actually cognitive rational. We have rational expressions to any kind of emotional difficulty, okay? Perfect example, yesterday I spoke to a friend of mine, and she lost her grandmother, and she was extremely upset. She lost her grandmother's on Valentine's Day, and she was very upset because she wanted to visit her, but she was not able to do so. And she was more so upset that she was not able to even see her. And I told her, I said, and she was old and she was sick. And I said, look at it this way. She left on Valentine's Day. She left on a day of love, of giving, of a place that she wants to keep you in her heart, her in your heart, in a loving heart. And she was sick and she suffered. And that helped my friend kind of change. She became from upset to sad. And she's allowed to be sad. She lost her grandmother, but she wasn't that upset anymore. She put things in a more rational, proportional things, situation or aspects for that matter. Repression. Now, repression is kind of tricky. People might say, well, how by repressing I'm activating high mechanism of defense? Well, repression, different than denial, we are putting aside emotion. When I said, okay, I am upset that I don't have a job. I am. But am I going to look into it and am I going to stay in that feeling of depressed and I'm going to sink into depression? Would I rather sink into that, or I'm just going to say to myself, okay, you are upset. Just put that aside for a second and clear some room for something that is a little bit more positive in order for you to continue to go, okay, to continue to move on with your plans. Now, if we go to the lowest, those are the mechanism of defense that are quite difficult to continue looking up or being positive on times of crisis. Of course, denial. How many of you heard, or some of you even think that the corona doesn't exist? The corona doesn't exist. And I hear it a lot here, some even say it's the government's way of putting us down, of locking us down, of taking our money, of all that. That's fine. I'm not judging anybody. That's a denial. That's saying that that's never going to happen to me. I am not going to get corona. It doesn't exist at all. And I will continue with my life. Idealization. We're taking something and grandiose it. We put grandiose abilities into somebody or something in order to, or when we are reducing their values. Okay. The one example that I have, if related to the corona in our country today, we have, of course, political instability. Some groups wants our prime minister off, his leadership, and for that matter, they come and say that he is this genius monster who probably created that virus in order for us to stay home, to take our money, and to put us in a situation when we are living in poverty and we're low. But he is that genius monster who's doing that. Those are the actual words. Now, if we're going on an everyday kind of life, another example is if I don't believe that the coronavirus exists, I actually denying it completely and opposing it completely. But when I leave home, I will put my mask. I will keep my 2 meters distance, and I will follow all the instructions, despite the fact that I do not agree with it and do not accept it. That would be idealization, a projecting. I'm projecting onto you, my feelings onto you. If I am angry, okay, so I am getting into a sort of conversation with you, and then you are yelling back at me, or not yelling back at me for that matter. You're having a conversation with me, feeling the need to raise your voice at me, and I'm saying, hey, why are you yelling at me? Why are you doing this? Why are you angry with me? Why are you hurting me? I'm projecting my own feelings into that person that just happened to be right in front of me. How many times some of us said, hey, it wasn't me. You're the one who started it. Or you're the one who's angry with me. That's projection. Reaction formation. I'm expressing the opposite of what I'm feeling. I'm sorry, I actually just confused it. It's exactly that example that I said that if I do not believe in the corona, and I will say exactly what they tell me in order to keep myself from getting affected. That would be one of this. And regression. Regression is one of the worst defense mechanism. That's actually putting us in a situation when fear paralyzes us. When we run, we isolate ourselves, we go home, we refuse to do anything but stay at home. And if we have a parent, so then we want to be cuddled and we want to be hugged and we want to be taken care of because we cannot function. When we get to a point of a regression, it's almost like not functioning. It's going back to early stage of development. So with that said, if we break down all the reasons that we live in fear right now because of our crisis, and we look at positive potential for each factor, we could possibly see an opportunity to maybe create something new and improved in our lives. Now, I want to share with you a couple of my examples. Now, mind you, I lost my job and I sat home and I just analyzed the situation. I studied that crisis as it related to me. So if we left before the corona, if we led a life of race against time, making it at all costs, whoever know me, know that I work 10 to 15 hours a day. I'm living the right here, right now. I don't know what tomorrow holds. I don't know if I'm going to get a job or not tomorrow. I don't know if we're going to get into quarantine tomorrow or not. All I know that tomorrow, today, I'm able to go out, and today I'm able to try to look for a job. So I'm living the right here and now. I have no choice. I can't plan my 5-year plans at this point. If we live in a world that is a dog-eat-dog world, and there is not enough dog to go around, we know how competitive we can all get to make it, to succeed. Now, there is no need to pursue the dignity, only our health. All that matters to us right now is not to get affected, to be healthy, and not to affect our family. Now, people, lust and impatience are not much of a use at this point in our lives when we have really nowhere to go and much of our resources are limited. And if we live to succeed, which is another example, again, we allowed ourselves to succeed at all costs. Now we live to survive, okay? No matter if I have a big business that made millions of dollars or a small business or I'm an employee. Now we all were asked to get into quarantine. We're asked to get in isolation. This is exactly our time to introspect, to stop, to breathe, to figure it out. How can we reorganize our life to adapt to the new situation? And if we lived by the idea of a half empty glass, we're always looking to get more. We're always looking to have more, and like enough is never enough. Now, in times of crises, specifically in times of crises, we have the strong ego that promotes the unity, the mutual guarantee, the understanding, the caring, the patient. Even in those big riots, okay, when I have all those big riots, even on violence, those people who choose to go out in the street to fight, not that we specifically agree with their way, but this is their way of unity, of making a point. Okay, they choose that way. But if we go beyond the violence, we see people who are trying to speak, but they speak their own language. Okay? So now we have the opportunity to refine our morals. We have the opportunities to refine our values and to strengthen them, our ability to manage the situation. Now, alongside of bringing all the opportunities to stay strong and grow, now we have to make the next step, okay? We have to make our next move. We have to find out what's working well. We have to find out what's not working well for us. We have to ask ourselves, where do you want to go? How could I get it? How can I get there? And what actually might get me there? Now, the best way to do it for me is I saw it, and I'm home 7 months, so I did have a lot of time to search and figure out what's working for me, is by using the well-known technique SWOT analysis. For those who are less familiar with this technique, the SWOT stands for the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, while the strength and the weaknesses are more internally related. It is all up to me, while the opportunities and strength are more external environmental focused. The SWOT analysis is assessing all these four aspects in order to make the most of what we have. What do we have? Each and every one in our home. What do we have now? How can I get the best out of what I have? How can I reduce the chance of failing? I'm already afraid. I'm in crisis. I need to pick myself up. I cannot afford to fail again and again and again. I need something to bring me up right now, something to motivate me to continue to do my own thing, or even to just to survive at this point. So again, my personal experience, for me, I'm sharing my chart with you. So my strength, I'm very creative, I'm very optimistic, I'm very energetic. My weaknesses, I'm very hyper, so I cannot stay in one place for a long period of time. I get bored easily. I get impulsive. My opportunities. First of all, when I first got into quarantine, I said, wow, I have my kids 24/7, which I didn't have before. Suddenly I saw them. So I spent quality time with my family. I was looking for job opportunities. I have my own I have my clinic, which hasn't worked. I couldn't find a job. So I start looking for other opportunities, other things that I can do within my knowledge, not necessarily what I have done for the past 20 or 25 years, getting out of my comfort zone. It gave me time to sit down and figure what other things I can do. I can create, and I have created. I painted my furniture. I was sewing carpets. I was doing things that I never would have had the time to even do that. But what are my threats on the other hand? I still am unemployed, okay? I don't have enough money. So I need a job. Now I have the opportunity to figure out what else can I do. So I need any kind of job that could provide me. And now if I'm limited in transporting myself from one place or another, I have to figure it out. What is it I can do within my limits? If it's at home, or it's my village, or maybe small places I can go to. What I'm trying to say to you is a small change in our perspective can create miracle. We must be grateful. First, we must be grateful that we're alive and healthy in this situation, okay? We must do the right thing and protect ourselves in order for us to protect our family and our loved ones. And with that in mind, we must stay positive, because I believe that in every crisis, there is an opportunity for growth in one way or another, okay? I believe that if we can be strong enough and be positive and keep our moral high, we can relinquish our fear and fight it and confront it and deal with it within the limitations we have. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. If there are any questions, we will be happy to hear and to give the Rita the opportunity to answer. I would like just to note one thing before finishing. You said that it doesn't matter if you have a PhD or a master's. So I would just like to say with that I think it doesn't matter if you have a PhD, master's, or only bachelor. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I think that degrees is not matter or is not important. But I just think that you have to be a good person, and I think this is much more important than any other education for life.
You have to be a good person and a strong person. It doesn't matter if you have education or not. You have to be strong enough to manage a crisis that puts many limitations on you, and you have to rely on any strength you have in order to overcome the crisis.
And I didn't say that because I have a PhD. I just believe it with all my heart.
Oh, I know.
Great. So thank you, Mrs. Shabi. I would like to thank you very much for your interesting presentation, your insights, and your valuable input. We truly hope that this event was useful for you and that really managed to get something with that and something useful for yourself as a step forward for building your mindset of what we call the mental warrior. I would like also to thank Vera, Gergana, Ivanka. Thank you very much for your devoted work, for your time, your efforts, just to make all these webinars come through or come into reality. And you did those magics. And thank you very much for everything for that. And dear guests, I would like to attend more such events organized by MSR. You can just follow us on social media channels, and of course with our emails. And just follow up our updates on the website. It's www.iimsr.eu. Colonel Goren, Mr. Sar, Vera.
Thank you very much.
Gergana, Ivanka, thank you very much, everything. Have a great time. Be safe and have a great weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Bye-bye.